Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Kate. I am Director of Sales and Client Success at Marketing4ECPs, and I'm so excited today to be joined by the beautiful, the lovely Kayla from Spexy. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh my goodness, Kate, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be so much fun. I love your personality already.
No, I had the pleasure of meeting at one of the Vision Expos. I know you do a ton of speaking across the eye care industry. I'll hand it over to you in a second to introduce yourself, but I just wanted to, if anyone is not familiar with Marketing for ECPs, we are a full service digital marketing agency. And so we work specifically in the eye care industry across North America. We've helped thousands of practices with everything from social media, email marketing, website development, you name it. One of the biggest things we do is really try to drive patients, new patients, better patients, to your practice. And so for today's webinar, we are talking about the art of communication and really communication tactics that are going to boost optical sales. I'm going to hand it over to Kayla, who is my lovely guest today, to introduce yourself and maybe give a little bit of a background about Spexy and about how you got into this industry.
Certainly, yes. So, hi, y'all. My name is Kayla. I am the CEO and founder of Spexy. And for those who don't know, Spexy is an online learning and training resource for eye doctors and their teams, specifically geared towards independent optometry. And what's really beautiful about Spexy is if the best relatable scenario that we can give to people is like, think of it like Netflix, but for optical learning. So, like in Netflix, if you would go watch a comedy, you could go on to Spexy and watch a new hire series. Okay. If you wanted to watch, a horror film, you would on Netflix, you would go and watch a training that we have on, managed vision care. That's the equivalent of a horror film, right? But we have all of these different dynamics of different videos and different series that you can watch, all pertaining to being more efficient, more effective, and having better patient outcomes within independent optometry. And so it's really beautiful because it's a little membership that people can just get access to and be able to have a resource from anything from the front desk to techs to doctors to the opticians to billers. We've got it all in there. So we're really proud of what we've created. And I think you said how I got into this industry. Yeah. Well, I wish it was something really beautiful and really amazing and very profound, but it was not. I was working, I had just was completing college and I had just finished up and I had seriously texted my mom and back when texting was like T9 texting, pretty sure. And I was like, hey, I'm ready to get a big girl job because I'd been working at Starbucks forever. And anyway, she had sent in my resume via fax to an eye doctor's office. And they're like, hey, we would love to interview you. And I'm like, all right, awesome. And so I was going to school for marketing and business. And let me tell you, something that I learned very quickly is that many in the optometry field have been taught how to be great optometrists, but they have not been given necessarily the know-how on how to run an independent practice, and certainly not the know-how on how to run an optical, a retail environment. And if you think about it, we're the only medical industry that has so much of our expertise relying on retail. Like, what other medical industry do they have to go out and sell something? Like, you go to a heart doctor, they do their trade on your heart, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's the best heart doctor. You go to a chiropractor, they do their magic, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's the best chiropractor. But you go to an optometrist and they're like, okay, cool, and you might dial in the very best prescription, but if they get crappy lenses somewhere or if they don't buy glasses or contact lenses from you at all, they're like, yeah, what was the point of that? Right? We have to be able to sell retail. And so that's really where I saw the need of what I had learned about business and marketing and the big void that optometrists had as a whole, with not being optometrists and opticians had as a whole, without being, really fed the right tools, really given the right tools. And so fast forward 15 years. Actually, it would be 18 years now. Here we are with Spexy, where we've created these resources to teach offices how to have better communication and to more influence patients and be able to have better outcomes, right? But we can stop the walkouts. We can have a higher capture rate. We can have happier patients. And of course, happier patients equal a better bottom line for our office. So everyone wins.
Absolutely. Sounds like what you do is really trying to lead with value, which I relate to so much because we definitely try to do that as well. And so I'd love to start the conversation out with probably what are you seeing is the biggest challenge right now for the independent practices when it comes to the optical side of their business?
Great question. Biggest challenge, I would say, would be maintaining patients by having them purchase inside the office, by stopping those patients from leaving with their prescription. It's a struggle that has always been a struggle, let's be honest, in the optometric field. But with the compounding of having, online resources get better and better and better. And let's be honest, online resources do a really good job at marketing and making their stuff sexy, and so many optometrists are failing at making making eyewear and optical really exciting. And so we've got all these back in the day it was the big box chain stores, and now it's online, and now it's all these other things that are kind of like coming up against us. But at the same time, we're very lucky here at Spexy. We have over 1,800 different users on our platform for eye care practices, and what's really beautiful is I have more involvement with some than others, but I see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of offices. And what's really beautiful is you can kind of get into, your own little world, and like, oh, we're losing so many patients. Doomsday, doomsday, doomsday cloud kind of hovering over you. But we have a very good, unique aspect because we can see offices that are actually thriving in
Mm,
this. And we've been able to really set apart and see these differences of what makes an office great, that's really thriving, and then these offices that are kind of having a hard time, and really be able to see the differences and then teach the differences. So all of that comes down to, I would say, capture rate would be the biggest struggle that I'm seeing in offices. Do you agree?
100%. And I love
Yeah.
what you said about just like connecting the dots, right? And same thing happens with us. It's so nice working in a specific industry because you really understand what works well for one practice, in Canada and one practice in the US, and you can apply those learnings to each other. And so I'd love to hear some of the things that you found that really help set practices up for success.
Yeah. Well, what I'm happy to tell you is that we have offices both in Canada and in the US. About 25-ish% of our offices that we have overall are in Canada. So that's really great. So we've been able to kind of test out our methods, not just with our learning, but also with kind of our frame turn platform as well. Today, for right now, for this conversation, I think we'll probably stick more on the learning side, because what we've really, I'm going to give you a little backstory. When I go into offices and do what are called immersion events. So you can have access to all of our online learning with our regular membership, but we can also go into your office. And when we go into your office, it's basically we go in there, we spend a few days really kind of like diving into, like, the first day is, okay, doctors, what do you want? Leadership, what do you want? And then we work with the team, and then we do training, and then we do this hands-on thing, right? And with the
Mhm.
hands-on thing, what's really beautiful is that we go about um, basically implementing and testing with patient care so that they can see me actually using it with patient care, and then they can try it as well, right? Now, what's really interesting is this happened twice in January of 2024 during two of our immersion events. It happened twice in two different places. One was in the Midwest, and one was on the East Coast, where we walk in and we do the training. It's been a long time office of ours. They're repeating all of the same things that we're telling them to say, and which is great, right? They're Spexy users. We love it. And what ends up happening is that we get out to the patient care, and for some reason, these are the most, I'm going to say, non-charismatic people I think I've ever seen in my life. They were great with me, but when they got out there with the patient, it was like, "Hello, patient. Thank you for coming in today. Here, can you sign out this form?" And I'm like, what is happening? That is not what I'm saying to you."
Not
No, they're
really,
saying,
not raging.
yeah, yeah, they're saying all the right things, but what ended up happening is I'm like, there's like a huge disconnect, and I was like, okay, so I'm trying my hardest to be kind, right? Because I need to be kind. We don't want to be like, "You're the most non-charismatic person I've ever met." But it was funny because it was the whole office, and this happened twice, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" So basically, I told them that we're going to end up coming back. And I needed to go restructure because I needed to come back and have something. Okay, I need to plan on training, and I need to plan on with this training, it needs to be with energy, right? I need to focus on energy, and I need to be doing this excitement. I'm going to grab my book house over here. So, no joke, February at SECO 2024, I walk in and I'm talking with one of my friends, Jen Denham, and she is a genius in the optical industry. She's with Aloha. She's one of the CFO at Aloha. And she actually came to me and she's like, Kayla, you have a very strong energy. You display a lot of competence. And I'm like, okay, that's a word we use all the time. Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, I just picked up this book called Cues by Vanessa Van Edwards. And she's like, you display a lot of competence cues, and you also have a lot of soft cues. And I'm like, who are you? She starts talking to me about how Vanessa Van Edwards, basically, who talks about herself as kind of a recovering awkward person. Have you read this book?
No, I haven't,
You need
but
to. It's
I'm
fabulous. So she starts talking to me about all this, and I'm like, what? And I start going through the pages, and honestly, some of the things she basically has this understanding that that charisma is something that can be learned.
Mm.
What? I never would have thought that. Like, I know I'm a very charismatic person. I'm very, high energy, but it's something that can actually indeed be learned. And as I'm going through these trainings, or I'm sorry, through these chapters, I'm going, wow, what is this? Like, this is great. And I can seriously play back. This is what that girl was doing at this office, and this is what that doctor was doing at this office. And I realized, like, it's putting it all into this nice contextual little training for me. And I'm like, all right, here we go. We go back into both of these offices, and it's a total hit, right? And it's really great because it comes from a very beautiful way of understanding, yeah, this is how I am as a person. And some people might be here on the energy or charismatic level, but to know little tricks on how to get to a better level is super eye-opening. And everyone's like, yeah, I want to try it. Little things that they can be doing. So the result of that, now we're coming back full circle, that was my whole story, is that what ended up happening for these offices is the doctors are like, yeah, these are going great. We're implementing it well. And then I start hearing both of these doctors at two different locations, two different offices, didn't even know about each other, told me, hey, our capture rates are increasing. And I'm like, wait, what? Okay. I was like, wait, I'm trying to get you guys, just more, energy, better connection, better human connection with your patient. And what we ended up finding out is that in a society like today's society, where you have basically so much disconnect, right? I went and got a coffee this morning, and at my coffee, the gal didn't even look up at me the whole time. She was very kind. Hi, good morning. How are you? What can I get you? Okay, that'll be 40 gazillion dollars. Okay, cool. And then, like, never really looks up. Right. So when we have actually a human connection where people are actually having this connection with us, people love it. We're drawn to it. Right. And it's so exciting. And so we ultimately ended up stumbling upon, which is always the goal, to have, better capture rates. But that's what we ended up stumbling upon. And it's because we're actually influencing patients. So we created a whole course on it.
Love
Isn't
that.
that great?
It's so great. And thank you for sharing that story. I think that those like genuine connections are so meaningful, especially as you said, living in a world where we're so on screens and online. And so having those genuine interactions with people, it matters so much. And so can you speak
Yes.
a little bit to what you saw when practices started to implement that?
Yeah. So what we saw actually was so much more human engagement, like human energy, like without getting people, all woo woo about energy and everything else, which I'm a totally woo woo person. I will go there with you if we need to. Yeah, we do. But to be able to have this connection with someone, and it can be something as simple as I like think to when go to a beautiful little boutique in a nice little town that you don't normally go to, and you walk in and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to spend all of my money with that little lady, she's so sweet. Like, what is it that these people have that help to create that connection? And that's what we started to see. And what's really interesting is a lot of the things that, and we can go through kind of I don't know how much time we have, but we can go through all of the different areas of the practice, and I can give you little tiny tidbits of things that every area can be doing to really facilitate this connection. And what it does is it starts to create this openness of trust, where when you have a human connection, you automatically get rid of this idea that you're trying to be sold, or you're trying to be bamboozled, or I don't know what anti-reflective treatment is, or I have no idea what presbyopia is. Like, all of those things cause a dissettling in a layman, right? They have no idea what we're talking about. And so it's unsettling. And so if we can help to create a genuine connection and create that energy, it allows for them to be able to trust us more. So they're not automatically not on guard. They can lower their guard. And then when we start talking about these types of things, we now have that connection and that trust with them. And then we can start seeing the repercussions of that, obviously, when they buy. So it's really exciting. So
Because I think as humans, we want to be seen, heard, and understood, right? And just really focusing on how we can do that for people is so meaningful and helps just create those like authentic connections. And once people feel comfortable, because I think that's really the biggest thing, is when people feel comfortable, they're more likely to do business with you.
That's exactly right. Yes, yes, absolutely. And so very true, because it's one of those things where it keeps people engaged
Mhm.
and excited rather than on guard. So
Absolutely.
absolutely.
So I'd love to dive into the different areas within the
Yeah.
practice where people can implement these tips and tricks. I think that that would be really valuable for the audience.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to give you one of my favorites, and it seems so silly. Like, it seems like the silliest, most like not important thing, but I'm telling you, I will give you examples as to why it is important. Okay. So for those of you who are not watching, if this is listening only, I want you to turn on the watching one, because these visuals are going to be important. Okay. Okay. So you need to turn on so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So in when a patient first walks in the door, so many times what happens is patients come walking in, right? And we can imagine when we go walking in, let's say to like another doctor's office or to a bank or something like that. How many times has it happened when you go walking in and you see the people at the front desk, and they might be talking amongst themselves, but they have not yet acknowledged you? And so you kind of like wait there awkwardly, and the door slides closed behind you, and you're just like, awesome. Now, if you're like me, I'll be like, hey, hello, hi, I'm Kayla. How are you? But for most people, they sit there, and that awkwardness is kind of like, okay, this is awkward. Am I in the right place? What's happening? And this bit of anxiety starts to kind of bubble up inside of you, right? Now, what's really interesting is it only takes about 8 seconds for this anxiety to start bubbling up inside of you. And so many times, we start stepping forward, and we're still not acknowledged, and we're like, "Mm, okay." But as soon as we're acknowledged, as soon as they go, oh, hi, hello, immediately all of that is gone, right?
Right.
So what's really interesting is that Vanessa Van Edwards has this cue in her book, and with what's really interesting is people are 12.5 times more likely to believe your gestures over your words. I'll repeat that because it's important. People are 12.5 times more likely to believe your gestures over your words. This is
Mm.
why it's really important that our gestures really help to facilitate this communication. So she has this thing, and she calls it palm flashing. Most other people call it waving, but whatever. Vanessa Edwards
Okay, palm
calls it palm flashing. She does that because there are a few other areas where we can utilize it too. And I have this in my training, but for right now, we'll just call it waving. Now, a simple little wave can actually help to decrease this bit of anxiety that your patients are getting when they walk in the door. Okay.
Mm.
So something as simple as this little tiny wave seems silly. Now, here's what's funny is you can actually give people a dose of oxytocin when you go like this, when you wave. It seems dumb, but oxytocin is a hormone that's released in the body that helps to make us happy, right? And it helps to help for us to feel good, right? And so you can literally give someone a dose of happy with this. So one thing I challenge you to do is that I want you waving at every single person that comes in. Now, I want to give you an example as to how you get this oxytocin into your system, because you can we've all had it happen where we'll be standing somewhere in a crowd and we see someone way over there that, waves at us, and we're like, do I know them? Oh, they're still waving. I might know them. And you're like, oh, okay, hi. And then as soon as you wave back, you've got that oxytocin, right, in your body, and you wave back. And then you realize they're waving at someone over there.
Nope,
You're
never
not even
happened.
waving at you. So what happens? That little bubble that you had, oxytocin's down, like it's gone, right? But that goes to show you that you're like, oh, somebody recognizes me. Oh, it must not be me. Oh, maybe it is. Okay, okay, huh? That's the oxytocin, and then all of a sudden, boom, gone, right? But that goes to prove how important a little tiny recognition of a wave actually is. And this goes back, clear back to like caveman days when we would show like this is like the international forever sign. You don't even need to know the same language of hi, I come in peace, welcome. I'm not carrying a rock to hit you in the head. Like, right? This is all really important. Now, I also want to illustrate for you too the importance of us being 12.5 times more likely to believe our gestures over our words. So if I am talking to you like this, nothing has changed as far as my verbiage. I'm obviously not a threat to you, right? But you're automatically wondering whether we're virtually or, in person, you're wondering what's going on behind my back. Right? Like
Mhm.
what is she doing? Now you might not recognize that you have a bit of discomfort, but the reality is that this is actually really, really important because this is a sign that your innate biological human brain is going, what's happening? I'm not a threat to you. I mean, we're virtual. Now
Right?
watch, when I go like this, you automatically have a sense of relief. Can
Mhm.
you kind of like feel, is that weird? Like you
Yeah.
automatically are like, what? Just by having my hands out. So being able to utilize your hands when you're talking with someone helps
Mhm.
to show that you're not a threat. So those of us that sit here with our hands in our pockets or with our hands behind us or do this, being able to wave is something that's very, very powerful. But be aware of how you're using your gestures because it helps to keep things much more conducive, and it helps to create more of a connection when you're talking with your patients. So yeah, so that's my front desk one, have the wave. So it doesn't matter if it is the delivery guy walking in the door, if it's a patient, if it's another team member. I want you guys waving at every single person that comes in because there's no point in having anxiety bubble up when we can give them a dose of happiness. So that's one of the very first things that seems so silly, but it works.
I love that so much. And I think that's such an important piece to note is that it's the subtle little things that can make such a difference and just
Yes,
impactful. And I love what you said as well about just like feeling that bubble come up and that oxytocin, like you've already kind of established that connection with someone. So now what are the next steps to keep that going? Right? The
that's
last
right.
thing you want to do, or I'm busy right now, or ignore them or something. You want to keep, you've already started it well. So how do you keep that going? And maybe you can speak to that.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, what's great about the little hand wave is it doesn't matter even if you're on a phone call or something like that. Just giving that gesture of a hand wave, and let someone know that they're in the right spot. You see them, they feel heard, they feel recognized. So one other little tidbit I'll give to your front desk people is that when you go to greet someone, let's say that you are sitting down for dinner and you're meeting some friends for dinner, you're the first one there, and your friends come walking in. Do you stay seated and then say hello to them? No, that's
Nope.
it. It doesn't even matter if
Jump
it's
up.
very hard to get out. You got to get all the way out of the booth. But
You
you
gotta
stand
say
up. You
hi.
stand up to greet your friends, right? And I make the joke like, but it's very real, is that if your mama comes to the house and you're not the one to answer the door, you better stand up to greet your mama. It's a respectful thing that we do in society. And so I ask the same thing when your patients come in. So once your patient walks up to you, if you have been on the phone and you get off the phone, or if they're walking up to you, I want you to stand up and say, hello, my name is Kayla. Are you here for your appointment today? Greet them. You don't have to go up and give them a hug like you do with your friends. That's a little weird. But we do want you to stand up and greet them. It's something, an international sign of respect. And honestly, you're trying to get this person to come in and they're going to pay you a couple hundred, maybe even a couple $1,000s. They deserve your respect. And so having that little extra notion of just a sense of respect and honoring that person and like, hi, welcome to our visit or welcome to our practice today. My name is Kayla. Can we get you checked in for a visit today? Start the conversation. So that's something also really, really powerful. We go through a lot of verbiage and things like that to be able to use in the course, but we don't have a few hours. So I'm going to jump over to the next thing that we can do. So here's what's really cool is that if I meet you out on the street and then you leave and you go meet somebody else, you are basically creating these different bonds with with each person that you meet, right? What's really interesting is that inside a practice or inside some sort of facility, you can often carry that same bond from person to person, which is
Mhm.
really interesting. So by the time they get to the doctor back in the exam room, they've already got this level of trust with your practice. They see it as like a whole entity. And so once you've built like that level of trust or connection that you have with that front desk person, then going to the tech who's going to take them back and begin their testing is a very important spot where the tech can have certain bits of influence. One that we like to talk about is that when the tech goes back to or goes to call out the patient, rather than having the tech, stand at the entry door and say, Kate, you're Kate. Oh, hi, Kate. Yes, we're ready for you. Okay. Rather than that, just take a little extra time and go to your front desk person and be like, hey, can you tell me who Kate is? Yeah, Kate's the blonde over there in that, cute suit jacket. Okay, great. So you can walk over and be like, hi, Kate, my name is Kayla. I'll get your testing started for you today. Go ahead and follow me. This is a much deeper connection because what ends up happening, and I know this always happens to me, is that I'll be waiting to be called back and I might be shopping around or I may be whatever. But when they call my name, it's like I'm fumbling to get all of my things. And it's kind of like you feel like you're rushed because they're waiting on the other side of the room for you. So just to be able to approach that person, introduce yourself, and then go ahead and say, go ahead and follow me. Let's get you started. It's a much more easily fluid connection that you can get started with right there with the pretesters. And what's great, again, is that we're building off of what the front desk person has already started with them. So
Oh, love that so much. Important too, right? Because like we talk a lot about the capture rate and how to get the optical sales up, but it really starts the moment they walk into the practice. And that's why I love what you guys do at Spexy, because you look at it holistically. It's the whole patient experience. So yeah, let's keep going.
That's right.
Okay, so
So once you're back in pre-testing, a lot of the verbiage is very important that you'll be utilizing. Again, if you want more of that, come find me at Spexy. But one thing that I will tell you is this is a very important time. The pre-testers and techs are seen as the nurses of the industry, right? People are not on guard with you nurses and you techs. We're not on guard because we're like, yeah, we're telling them our woes. We're saying all the things that we need help with. And you're not selling glasses right there, but you can be giving validation to your patient as they continue on their journey. So if you hear that your patient Bob is there and he's having troubles with nighttime driving, and you as the tech are noticing that he didn't get anti-reflective treatment on his glasses, and he's really struggling, you can say, hey Bob, I'm really excited that you are here today because doctor is going to be able to dial in your prescription so nicely. And then I'm also going to have you talk to our opticians because they are talking about this anti-reflective treatment that is supposed to be so fabulous with nighttime driving. So just having that on your glasses plus what doctor's going to be able to dial in for you, let me tell you, you've come to the right place. We're going to get you taken care of. So what's really fabulous is you are telling them how it's going to be helping in their lives. You're not selling it to them. You're not talking prices. You're not anything else, but you're talking from a very wholehearted, right, recommendation of how this can be helping them. And same thing with, let's say we have Pam, the presbyopic patient or pre-presbyopic patient who is like, I can't see my menu at the restaurant anymore. And I'm doing this with my readers, but I don't want to get progressives because my friend did it and she hated it and whatever. As a pretester, so many times they're like, okay, noted, and then take them back to the exam room. I don't want you to do that because you have a lot of power as a tech. And so what I want you to do is be able to validate for that patient that they're in the right place and that they're going to be able to get help. And so to be able to say at that point, oh, Pam, I hear you. Getting to the time when you have to have, that distance in reading in one lens, it's something that, we all kind of run into eventually. But I will tell you, our opticians here are super fabulous and our doctor is really great with being able to dial in the very best prescription. Now, here's what's important. You want to validate the doctor, of course, because if you're not working for a great doctor, call me, we'll get you some better doctors. Just kidding. But most of our doctors are doing a really fabulous job. The disconnect is where the patient will leave and go and get cheap glasses somewhere else. That's a problem, right? And so to be able to validate not just your doctor, but also your opticians as a pair is very important. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the doctor part. But to be able to give Pam, that settled peace of mind of, gosh, I'm really in the right spot. My friend did not come here and, I'm probably
Mhm.
going to be recommending that she come here. To be able to give that validation right there, rather than doctor having the only sense of that validation at the end, like, we're going to be able to help you. Oh, all right, cool. But to be able to have kind of that pre-validation is something that really helps to settle the patient's mind and helps to get them thinking, not about how much is this going to cost me. I can probably get it cheaper at, a big box store or online. So they're going with, they're going to be able to help me, and this is a situation where I'm in the right spot, right?
Yeah.
It kind of helps to set that validation.
Yeah, you've made them feel safe, right? And you've made them feel like, okay,
Yes.
I'm going to be taken care of now,
Right.
the right spot, which, yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. So that's something that's really helpful. And then as we get back to the doctors, there's a lot of verbal and nonverbal communication that comes from the tech to the doctor handoff, and that's where Vanessa Van Edwards' palm flashing comes in. To say to a patient, "Hey, go ahead and follow me," and then start walking, right, is one thing. But to be able to go, "Okay, patient, let's go ahead and walk this way," and actually direct them, you will actually have better, because of the palm. It seems really weird, but it's a thing. I don't know
Yeah.
why, it's in our human brains. But to be able, it's more concierge feeling, like, is what
Mhm.
people will portray to us. But it shows a level of trust, because we are, rather than being, it closes us off when we're just like, okay, going this way, versus, okay, patient, let's go ahead and head this direction, and you're going to go into the first door on the left.
Yeah.
So it is much more of a concierge type feeling. And the reason why we consider that concierge is because that level of trust, that level of being taken care of, that level of care overall, is something different. So when you're directing your patients, even if you don't sign up with anything at Spexy, let me tell you, when you're directing your patients, don't have them follow you. Direct them on where they should go, like this, because having that level of trust of exposing your palms is something that, it's, like I said, it's in our innate, I don't know, reptilian brain somewhere.
Yeah, we
Isn't
want to
that
be
funny?
taken care of. It makes so much sense, honestly. It seems small, but it's those little things that just elevate the patient experience that are so meaningful. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so now
So,
the doctor has the patient.
the doctor has the patient. That's right. And so when the doctor, there are a lot of cues that doctors can be giving the patient from the moment they walk in the door, as far as what we call fronting. I give a lot of examples of these and we go really deep into it. One thing that I want to talk about right now, though, is the verbal communication that doctors are giving patients when they're making their prescribed recommendation. What we want to avoid when we're making our prescribed recommendations, and male and female doctors both do this, they will be very confident throughout the entirety of the exam. Tell me what's better, one or two, do all of these different things with a lot of confidence. Then when they start to talk about the prescribed recommendations, as far as recommending a progressive, a computer lens, and a set of sunglasses, that's when doctors start to waver. And the confidence, what's really interesting is that, we'll start with the first, with unintentional volume decreases. So it'll sound a little something like this. So, okay, patient, today I'm recommending for you a set of progressives. These progressives will help with your distance, intermediate, and reading. I'm also prescribing for you a set of computer lenses. Now, with these computer lenses, it'll be easier using them at work. And then I'm also prescribing you a set of sunglasses. You can see how the volume keeps dropping. What that does is that sends up our little spidey senses that we have to go, hey, there's he's not confident or she's not confident. Like, what is this, right? It makes the person that you're listening to go, am I getting bamboozled here? Like, is there something going on here?
Yeah.
And so maintaining your level of volume is something that only takes a bit of intentionality. For when you are making your prescribed recommendations, you want to make sure and have that consistency throughout all three of your recommendations.
Yeah.
So very important. The next thing, and it also has to do with how we are speaking, is unintentional questions. So many people will ask unintentional questions. I'm saying a sentence and it's coming off with a question. So Vanessa Van Edwards gives a really great example of this when she asks her daughter, like, did you take a cookie from the cookie jar? And her daughter says, no. Like, do you believe me? Isn't that silly? But even like as a mom, you're like, yes, she did. Yes, she did. She absolutely did. But the same thing happens with patients when we ask unintentional questions. And so often it'll sound like this. So patient, today I'm prescribing for you a set of progressives. With these progressives, they'll help with your distance, intermediate, and reading. I'm also prescribing for you a set of computer lenses. These computer lenses will be really great when you're sitting at your desk in the office. Okay, they're all statements, but I'm giving all of them this unintentional question inflection at the end, right?
For sure, you
Now,
develop that confidence piece a little bit of the patient, and they're like, "Wow, what's happening?"
that's right. That's right. Their innate senses are coming through and going, they're not, something's off. They're not confident in what they're saying. And in all reality, we're now speaking like this. We probably didn't start speaking like this. We're speaking like this because of that one patient that freaked out on us at one time that was like, you're trying to sell me, you're an oil salesman, you're, whatever. So
Totally.
the reason that we're doing it is for self-preservation in a way, like, don't get upset. I'm just told to do this. I'm just trying to make your life better. But in all reality, listen to the difference when just with a little bit of intentionality, make sure that you are bringing down the end of the sentence. It'll sound like this. Okay, patient, today we're prescribing for you a set of progressives. These progressives will help with your distance, intermediate, and reading. I'm also prescribing for you a set of computer lenses. These computer lenses are going to be fabulous when you're there at the office. We're also prescribing for you a set of sunglasses because sunglass protection is extremely vital. See how much more confident that sounds? It's literally the same words, but it
Yep.
sounds so much more confident when you just make sure that you are bringing that down at the end. It brings up so much more opportunity for people to listen to you. Isn't that
100%,
silly?
because you have the confidence in the OD, but then you're also instilling that confidence in your patient of like, oh, like I'm being, again, tying back to what we were just talking about, being taken care of, which is
That's right.
important. Yeah, I
That
love
is exactly right. Exactly right. Okay, so you want to get into the opticians really fast?
that. Yeah, let's go. Is
Okay,
that
so
probably, in your experience, is that where you see the most drop off is between that handoff between the ODs and the opticians?
um well, funny enough, the what we're teaching with the front desk and the techs is something that's never been taught before, so it's never really been tried before. And
Right.
so if we just get those two on board, it's just like the patient's already coming in like with like bells on their toes, like they're so excited. They're already
Yeah.
having the best time. One thing that I will say is that back to the doctor inflection, when we have a new patient there, we have a very direct thing that you should be doing with your new patients. From the front desk, we should be taking the patient on a tour, a bit of a tour, not a full tour. But it helps to get them acclimated, and it helps for them to feel like it's not just a surprise around the corner, even if you're just directing them in different areas. The same thing when we get back into the exam room, to be talking to the patient, if they're a new patient, like, hi, Kate, I'm so glad that you chose our office. Tell me, how has your visit been so far?
Mm,
That's a really important thing to make patients reflect upon their visit.
mm,
Um, for new patients and existing patients, when opticians come back, this is where I'm going to say it doesn't have necessarily the drop off, but if everything else is facilitated perfectly and the opticians come into a situation where it's like this beautiful, you know, or beautiful ray of sunshine that they're walking into, the opticians rarely will drop the ball here because they realize, oh my gosh, this patient is like hook, line, and sinker. They're ready. They're ready to, purchase, which is awesome. However, if the optician messes this up, call me because I'm going to beat you. No, I'm just kidding. Because you need to understand, opticians, you have a lot of influence, a very, I should say, vital part of influence right here. I have seen it happened right in front of me. So after we started doing these trainings, after I realized, after doing the in-person ones, I'm like, oh my gosh, we have something here. We started implementing a few mini trainings throughout a few different offices. And when we would go into these offices, I would sit there and I would sitting literally in the exam room so they can see me there, right? The patient can see me there, the optician can see me there. And I had opticians that were coming in for like to pick up the patient with a pen, and they're sitting there like this, like, flipping their pen as I was doing the handoff. Stop it. You're just showing everyone you're bored. And
totally.
certainly don't do this. Don't be leaning against the wall. Don't be like, show your attention. And it's really important to show your competence. With competence, we do that with a lot of our gestures, but we also need to show warmth with our gestures. And so when you're receiving the handoff, whether you receive it in the exam room or out in the optical, you need to be showing warm gestures. Warm gestures look like this. You want to have your weight forward a little bit, because even though you can't even see my whole body, this versus this is so much more engaging, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. The other thing too is you want to slightly tilt your head, and you want to occasionally nod as you're hearing things that deserve a nod. If you're an over nodder, a way that Vanessa Van Edwards tells us to stop that is to turn your head, because you can't do this because that's weird.
Ah,
Right?
that's a good
Yeah. Yeah. So
one.
for people, because there are people out there that are over nodders, for those people, just tilt your head a little bit, because it'll stop you from doing that. So anyway, so there is a good amount of nod that you want. And then you want to also be very engaged. The person who is talking, even if the doctor is facing away from you talking to the patient, you want to be looking at where the doctor is and then looking back to the patient, right? You want to be very engaged in the conversation. The biggest thing is that when we get out into the optical, I don't know. Okay, we have a few minutes. Okay, so when we get out into the optical, I want to make sure one of the biggest opportunities that is often lost is our opportunity with sunglasses.
Mm,
And let's say the doctor makes a great recommendation. Once you get the optician out, or I'm sorry, optician, once you get the patient out into the optical, start having this conversation of the prescriptions that doctor has created. This will help to facilitate any sort of questions or anything that the patient has. We can go deeper into all of that. Um, but one of the biggest things is with sunglasses. And I came up with this beautiful analogy. So my husband has a Cadillac that he really loves. He loves this darn Cadillac, and it's got a fancy wrap and stuff on it, and it can only go to the hand car wash because apparently it's that fancy. Okay, so I decide to take my husband's Cadillac to the hand car wash, and it's got this fancy little thing where you take the car through, and then you get out, and then they do all the washing on the inside and everything else, and they give you a number. So this gentleman, after all this, and it's great because you get to sit there and talk to local people and everything else. And so this gentleman walks up to me and he says, "Hey, is this your black Cadillac?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And then he says, "Well, did you want us to do kind of like that Rain X thing on the car, because it'll help to keep, the water from, a lot from sticking and allow for it to bead off. And did you want us to do that on your car?" And I'm sitting there going, "Bro, you already took it through the wash. You've already gone through all this other stuff. Why am I talking about this right now? Like, what the heck?" Okay. It seems ridiculous, right? What happens though when we get our patients out into the optical? We pick out their glasses, we get all these glasses, and then we, quote it all out for them. And then we say, "Okay, patient, did you want to look at sunglasses?" Like,
mm,
what? I just went through all of that. I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and now you want to go clear back here? It's the same type analogy that of ridiculousness, because it's freaking inconvenient at that point, right? And
yeah.
so to have this that's
Yeah.
right. To have this mentality of keeping sunglasses with the everything top of mind the whole time. So as the patient is grabbing glasses and we're trying on that primary set of progressives, you can be going, "Okay, and these sunglasses actually complement that pair really, really well. So go ahead and try these ones on me for me. Do you like these?" "Yeah, I do. I don't know how into sunglasses I am." "Okay, well, cool. Well, you know what? I'm actually going to, since you do kind of like them, I'm going to keep them right here. We're going to pick out your other pair because we actually have a special discount that you get on a multiple pair. And so I'm going to keep them right here, and we're going to go ahead and I'll price that out for you just so you can see kind of what savings you would get." You are allowing for that to be top of mind for them, just so that they can see the savings. It's better than going through the entire stinking cycle and then like, "Okay, let's look at sunglasses." No, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't have time for that. And so that's one of the really good opportunities that we can be in our communication process, be keeping all of the prescribed recommendations that doctor has made, be keeping that top of mind throughout the patient experience in the optical.
I love that. It's just these little, seemingly little things, but that are so important to just elevate that experience. And so this is so helpful. And I know we're kind of getting towards the end of our time together. So I think one of the biggest questions I want to ask you is, what are the biggest opportunities you're seeing right now for the independent optometrists in the optical space?
Great question. The biggest opportunities I am seeing is being able to utilize what you don't even realize that you have. Being able to utilize your patient there in your office. We're in a really unique dynamic with Spexy where we get to talk with other vendors like Marketing4ECPs, or other vendors that are providing contact lenses or are providing all these other things where doctors don't realize how much money the big companies are spending trying to get your patient once they walk out your door. They're trying so hard, right? To to market to them on their phones, to market them through messages, through their vision plans. They're trying to market through them through all these different places. And being able to actually capitalize with your patient that is there right now is so very important. And the way that you do that is through your team, because I don't care. The thing is that creating a human connection is something that is so powerful. And I don't care who you are, and I don't care how good AI gets, AI will not be able to replicate this human interaction ever. And so if you can help to facilitate that, that's something that AI can't take away from us. The big box stores are terrible at it. So I doubt they're ever going to take that away from us. And then also with online being able to have that that I guess they lack that personification of us being here in person, right? And so to be able to really capitalize on that, I think is one of the biggest darn opportunities that are there that opticals are they can easily capitalize on because you have the patient already there. So yeah.
I love that so much. And from a marketing standpoint, we speak about that all the time because, we're in the digital marketing space and we can drive all the patients and all the leads to your practice. But if you aren't doing things to intentionally elevate their patient experience while they're in the practice, then there's an opportunity. That's a huge missed opportunity. And so I love that you said that because I think it's so important for practices to remember that when the patient is in the practice, that is the prime time that you get to really work with them and ensure that they stay loyal to the practice and keep coming back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfectly said, Kate. Good job.
So amazing. You are so wonderful, Kayla. I
Thank you.
first want to thank you for taking the time to meet with me and to speak to our Marketing for ECPs network. And I also wanted to ask if people would like to get in touch with you for Spexy, how can they reach out?
Great question. So you can just go to Spexy, Spexy, Bespexy, Spexy, bspexy.com. And that's our website. And you can see pretty much everything there. We've got our 2 different membership options. There are opportunities for us to come into your office and be able to chat with you. And then our team is really fabulous. You'll see our team email. We've got a team of 5 of us that we manage with all of this, which is great. And what's really beautiful is that team email goes to all of us on our team, and we're able to really help our patients and really help a lot of doctors out there. So I'm excited. If you guys wanted to take a look, we'd be happy to help you too.
Thank you so much, Kayla. Honestly, just in the last, 45 minutes or so, I feel like there's so much valuable pieces of information. So I can only imagine what it's like to actually dive in and work with you guys and really understand all the value that you can bring to the clients.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Those are such nice words. I love it. You just made my
Yeah,
day.
it's such a pleasure to connect with you. And so thank you everybody for tuning in today. We are so grateful for you to listen. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at Marketing for ECPs and enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.